I want you to imagine just a really specific kind of pressure. You are responsible for the digital nervous system of a massive federal law enforcement agency.
Right.
And we aren't talking about, a startup selling coffee subscriptions here. We are talking about Homeland Security investigations, HSI.
Yeah, it's
These are the people tracking cross-border criminal organizations, terrorists, money launderers. The stakes are quite literally life and death.
it is a high-stakes environment,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if the system goes down, investigations stall. Evidence doesn't get tracked,
exactly.
and bad actors might slip through the cracks. It's not just an inconvenience.
Right, so you have this massive responsibility, but then you look at your to-do list for the day. Item 1, develop a strategy for artificial intelligence and machine learning to catch cartels.
Sure.
Item 2, go down to the supply closet and make sure there are enough toner cartridges for the printer.
And item 3, write a script for a congressional testimony, and then immediately after that, update the office seating chart because someone moved to a different cubicle.
That is the wild, completely contradictory world we're diving into today.
It really is.
Welcome to the deep dive. We are looking at a solicitation document today titled ITPMS Higher Level Requirements. It is basically this massive help wanted sign posted by HSI.
Yeah, and they need a contractor to come in and run, well, almost everything involved in their IT infrastructure.
And when we say run, we mean it in the absolute broadest possible sense. The mission for this deep dive is to unpack this document because it outlines a roadmap for HSI to move from a very traditional IT setup to this flexible, mobile future.
Using an agile-driven approach, quote-unquote.
Right, but it exposes the tension at the heart of modern government work.
Oh, perfectly. On one side, you have this desperate need to be agile and futuristic, and on the other side, you have the crushing weight of bureaucracy, paperwork, and these physical legacy processes that just won't die.
We are going to explore the specific systems involved, the bureaucratic hurdles, and this really surprising mix of high-tech strategy and low-tech administrative duties.
It's a survival guide for the federal contractor, essentially.
So let's start with the landscape. What is the actual stuff this contractor is going to be responsible for? The document mentions the HSI portfolio. Can you give us the lay of the land?
Yeah, so it's a huge footprint. The document explicitly highlights 3 major acquisition oversight list investments.
MAOL.
Right, MAOL. In government speak, these are level 2 investments. That means they are big money, high risk, and they get a ton of scrutiny from the top.
Okay, walk us through these big 3.
First, you have Text-S modernization.
Checks S.
Yeah, Text-S. This is the bread and butter. It's defined in the text as investigative case management. Basically, every agent working a case is likely interacting with this system.
So it's the filing cabinet.
It's the digital filing cabinet, but much, much smarter. Then you have SEVIS. That's the student and exchange visitor system.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
Most people have. This tracks millions of non-immigrants entering the country for school or exchange programs. It's massive.
Those sound like very established, steady ships.
Yeah.
Big, heavy, but they're moving. But then there's the third one on this level 2 list, Raven.
Ah, yes, Raven. I mean, the name alone sounds cooler than the others.
It does. It stands for the Repository for Analytics in a Virtualized Environment.
It sounds like a secret weapon.
And in a way, it is a secret weapon. This is the analytics arm. This is where they take all that data and try to find patterns, connections, threats. But here's the catch.
Okay.
And the document is very specific about this. Raven is essentially the problem child.
How so? What makes it the problem child?
The text notes that Raven is the only program among these major 3 that has not achieved AD3.
Okay, stop right there. We need to unpack ADE3 because I see that acronym a lot in these government docs. What does it actually mean for the people doing the work on the ground?
Think of ADE3 Acquisition Decision Event 3 as the bar exam for a piece of software.
The bar exam.
Yeah. Until you pass ADE3, you aren't really a lawyer. You're still a student. You're an experiment.
Got it. In government terms, ADE3 is the green light for full production and deployment. It means the system is stable, the costs are known, and it is ready for prime time.
And Raven hasn't passed the bar exam yet.
No. And that is incredibly dangerous territory for a government program. There is something in the defense and tech industry called the Valley of Death.
The Valley of Death. Sounds ominous.
It is. It's where software projects go to die because they burn through all their development money, but they never quite get the approval to actually launch and become permanent. The fact that Raven hasn't hit ADE3 means it is stuck right in that high-pressure zone.
And the document mentions it requires a dedicated support team. That reads to me like they are calling in the paramedics.
Or the special forces. They need a team specifically to push this thing over the finish line. Because analytics is so much harder than just case management.
Right, because it's not just storing files.
Exactly. It's abstract. It's virtualized. Proving that an analytics tool works reliably is much harder than proving a standard database works. So the contractor walking into this isn't just maintaining servers. They are walking into a rescue mission for a critical national security asset.
And just to add scale to this, the document also mentions there are about 10 smaller level 3 IT system investments as well. So it's a massive portfolio.
Oh yeah, it's not just the big three.
That sets the stakes pretty high. You have this rescue mission on one hand, but then you have the overall philosophy of the contract. The document talks heavily about Agile and this new mobility initiative.
This is where the cognitive dissonance really kicks in for me. The document explicitly demands an Agile-driven approach for all these services.
Now, Agile is one of those words that has almost lost all meaning because corporate folks use it for everything. But in software development, it actually means moving fast, iterating, breaking things to fix them quickly.
Exactly. Yeah. Agile is entirely about speed and flexibility. But the federal acquisition process, the actual rules for buying things and building things, is designed for the exact opposite.
Right.
It's designed for what we call waterfall. It wants you to plan every single detail 5 years in advance and never deviate from the plan.
So this document is essentially asking the contractor to be agile, to sprint, while wearing the concrete shoes of federal regulation.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's not just software. They want mobility in the physical workplace, too. I was reading the section on the mobility initiative. It says the contractor isn't just maintaining servers. They're expected to lead the change towards a long-term mobility workplace.
It's incredibly ambitious. They don't just want IT support.
Yeah.
They want a cultural revolution within HSI.
Yeah.
They want the contractor to help place the agency as the leader among federal agencies at transforming workspaces.
They want agents to be able to work from anywhere, collaborate seamlessly, use advanced information technology on the fly, maximize flexibility.
Right.
But let's pause for a second. Can an outside IT contractor actually change the culture of a federal agency? That feels a bit like asking the plumber to redesign the architecture of your entire house while he's under the sink fixing a pipe.
It is a massive ask. And frankly, it puts the contractor in a really tough spot. They have to push for this forward-leaning, flexible future, but they don't have the actual authority of the agency director.
They're just the hired help.
Exactly. They have to influence without authority, and they have to do it while managing the governance and financials of the agency, which, as we'll see, are arguably the least flexible things on Earth.
Okay, let's get into the actual meat of the contract then. We've got the dream here. Mobility, Agile, saving Raven. Now, what are the day-to-day obstacles? The document breaks the work down into 8 distinct task areas.
Yes, 8 tasks.
Let's focus on the most interesting contrasts here. Task 1 and 2 are portfolio and strategic planning.
Right, and this is where they ask for the innovation. They want data analytics, automation, machine learning. They want the contractor to drive open source adoption. It reads like a very Silicon Valley wish list.
But then, right in the middle of this high-tech Silicon Valley wish list, there is a requirement that literally stopped me cold. I had to read it twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating.
Oh, I know exactly what you say. The catalog.
The catalog.
Yeah.
The requirement states they need to develop and print an annual IT catalog. Specifically, it says at least 25 professionally bound and printed books.
With an option for quantities up to 75.
Wait, just run that by me again. 25 physical printed books. In 2026, we just talked about leading the federal government in mobility and digital transformation. Why on earth are we professionally binding a physical book?
It is the perfect symbol of the government straddle. You have the mobility goal, this digital future, but you have to ask who is actually reading this physical catalog.
Right.
It's likely senior leadership, or maybe congressional overseers, or perhaps people who simply like to hold a physical object during a budget meeting.
It has to be professionally bound. You can't just staple it in the break room. That suggests to me it's a prop. It's political theater.
It's legitimacy. In the government, if it's just a PDF on a screen, it feels temporary. If it's bound in leather or heavy cardstock, it's real. It's official. So the contractor has to be cutting edge enough to design an AI strategy, but old school enough to know a really good print shop.
It's hilarious, but it's also kind of sad. It shows that the culture change they desperately want hasn't actually happened yet at the very top. They still want the paper.
Precisely. And if you think the printed book is rigid, look at task 3, integrated governance. This involves managing something called the storefront.
Yeah, they call it the HSI Governance Board storefront on SharePoint. What is the actual function of this storefront?
It's the ultimate gatekeeper. Imagine you're an investigator and you find a cool new open source app that helps you map out financial transactions. You can't just download it to your government laptop. You have to submit an intake request. The contractor manages this entire storefront process. They have to validate your request, conduct assessments of the as-is business process versus your proposed-to-be solution, and decide if it fits the enterprise architecture.
So they're essentially the bouncers of the IT club.
They are the bouncers. You're not getting in with those shoes. And they are also the accountants. Which brings us to task 4, financial management. And this is where that agile dream we talked about really goes to die.
I saw the acronyms in this section. EVM, CPIC. It looks like a tax audit on steroids.
It is so much worse than a tax audit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about EVM, Earned Value Management. To the uninitiated, this just sounds like tracking a budget, but is an incredibly aggressive mathematical framework.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, imagine you hire a contractor to build a deck in your backyard. 2 weeks in, they come to you and say, hey, we've spent 50% of the budget. You might naturally assume the deck is 50% done.
That would be the logical assumption, yeah.
But in reality, maybe they just bought all the premium wood and haven't cut a single board yet. They've spent the money, but they haven't actually earned the value of that money in completed work. EVM is designed to catch exactly that discrepancy.
Oh, wow.
It forces the contractor to prove, with hard data, that the physical work completed precisely matches the dollars burned.
So it's basically a lie detector test for the project manager.
Exactly. And the document requires this level of tracking for the entire MAOL portfolio. The contractor has to run these EVM calculations constantly. If you deviate too much from your baseline, you trigger a breach. Then you have to write a formal corrective action plan. It is a massive administrative burden.
And all of this financial tracking feeds into something called the OMB Exhibit 300, right?
Yes, the Exhibit 300. That is the life or death document for these systems. Every year, major investments like Raven or Technos have to submit a massive business case to the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB. That's the White House, basically.
Right.
If that Exhibit 300 is weak or the EVM numbers don't add up, Congress can just cut the funding.
So the contractor isn't just counting the beans. They are writing the legal argument for why the program should even continue to exist.
Yes, they are the defense attorneys for the program's budget. The document says they have to use ACET modeling to create life cycle cost estimates, LCCEs.
ACET modeling.
It's a specialized cost estimating tool. They have to predict, with mathematical certainty, what a complex system like Raven will cost to run in the year 2030. Every dollar obligated or expensed has to be tracked. If they get the estimate wrong, the program could be completely defunded.
If you think about it, that feels like a huge conflict of interest. The contractor is getting paid to support the program, but they are also the ones generating the data that proves the program is working to the government.
Welcome to federal contracting. It is a self-reinforcing ecosystem. But the rigor required here, the sheer amount of paperwork to justify every single dollar, is exactly what makes Agile so hard.
Because you're locked in.
You're completely locked in. You can't just pivot to a brilliant new idea next week if you've already locked your lifecycle cost estimate into an Exhibit 300 for the next fiscal year.
So we have the visionaries in Task 1, the bouncers in Task 3, and the defense attorneys in Task 4. Now let's talk about the pure bureaucracy. Tasks 5 and 6 cover acquisition and program management. This seemed to be where the alphabet soup got the thickest.
Oh, it is incredibly dense. We talked about achieving ADE3 for Raven earlier. To get there, you need to generate a literal mountain of documents. The document lists ITARs, which are IT acquisition requests, BWS, Balanced Workforce Services, acquisition program baselines.
And D102 documents. What is D102?
D102 is the Department of Homeland Security's specific acquisition instruction. It is the rule book. It dictates every single step of buying something or building a system. If the contractor misses one step in the D102 process, the purchase is invalid.
It's like playing a board game where if you roll the dice wrong, you go straight to jail.
Or at least you get a very angry, very public letter from the Government Accountability Office.
Which is terrifying. And speaking of oversight, Task 6 mentions that the contractor assists with responding to congressional inquiries and GAO requests.
And preparing congressional testimony.
Yes, that one really stood out to me.
It should. Think about the chain of command here. You are a contractor employee. You might be a consultant 3 years out of college. And you are drafting the highly technical briefing points that the director of HSI is going to read aloud to a Senate subcommittee to explain why they spent $50 million on a database.
You are effectively the voice of the agency.
You are the ghostwriter for the agency.
Yeah.
You have to translate the techno-reality like, hey, the server is crashing because the legacy code is terrible into political speak. Like, we are currently optimizing the infrastructure for greater mission resilience.
That is a very distinct skill set. It's not IT. It's high-level political communications.
It really is. And that's what makes this help wanted ad so unicorn-like. They want a tech wizard, a forensic accountant, a lawyer, and a speechwriter all rolled into one contract.
And an office manager.
Yes. We have to talk about Task 8, administrative support.
This is hands down my favorite part of the entire document, because after all the high-flying talk about AI strategies and mobility initiatives and saving Raven from the Valley of Death, Task 8 brings us crashing right back down to earth.
It absolutely does. The human element. Procuring office consumables. Specifically, it lists copier paper and printer cartridges.
It is such a jarring shift in tone. I can just picture the morning meeting. Okay, team, fantastic job on the congressional testimony regarding our neural network architecture. Now, who ordered the cyan toner? Because the printer is blinking again.
It highlights the gritty reality of program management support. You aren't just the brain of the operation, you are the hands. The document explicitly mentions managing seating charts. It mentions maintaining physical inventory records.
Seating charts.
Yes, seating charts. If a new federal employee gets hired, the contractor has to figure out what cubicle they sit in. They effectively run the office. From the high-level strategy down to taking the meeting minutes.
Does this worry you at all? I mean, just from a pure focus perspective.
It absolutely does. If I'm HSI and I am paying a massive premium for a specialized contractor to modernize my critical investigative systems, do I really want that same expensive expertise worrying about seating charts and printer paper? It feels like a massive dilution of focus.
It also feels like a trap for the contractor on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You can deliver the best AI strategy in the federal government, but if the boss runs out of paper right before a big meeting, that is what they are going to remember.
That is the ultimate customer service aspect of IT. The printer is always the most visible failure. But it really brings us back to that central tension we started with. The document asks the contractor to transform the workspace into this mobile, digital utopia. But it also explicitly requires them to maintain the physical, paper-based reality of the current office.
They have to build the future while keeping the past on life support.
And supplying the copier paper for the past to live on.
So as we wrap this up, let's synthesize this for a second. If you are listening to this, and maybe you work in a big organization, you probably recognize some of this chaos. What is the main takeaway here?
The main takeaway is that modernization in a massive government agency is incredibly messy. It is never a clean switch from old to new. It is a very messy, overlapping process. You have Raven, the future, struggling to be born and pass ADE3. You have techs, the legacy system, doing the heavy lifting every day.
Right.
And you have the contractor stuck right in the middle, trying to use agile methods in a strict waterfall world, writing checks with EVM math and binding physical books to prove they're doing a good job.
It sounds like a job that requires a very specific kind of masochism to succeed at.
Or just a really, really high tolerance for irony.
I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought about that mobility initiative. We started by pointing out that HSI wants to be the leader among federal agencies in workspace transformation.
Right, the forward-leaning mobile workplace.
But looking at Task 8, the paper, the seating charts, the physical inventory, it raises a bigger question for me. In any large transformation, does the sheer weight of legacy process inevitably slow down the vision of the future? Like, can you ever truly be mobile and agile when your contract literally requires you to be the anchor for the physical office?
That's the real challenge. If the contractor does their job perfectly and makes everyone completely mobile, nobody needs a seating chart. Nobody needs printer paper. But the contract requires them to manage those things. So, in a strange way, the contract incentivizes keeping the physical office alive, even while it tells them to kill it.
The contract fights itself.
It fights itself, and the winner of that fight will determine if HSI actually gets its futuristic renovation, or if they just get a fresh coat of paint and a really well-stocked supply closet.
And 25 professionally bound books to read in the lobby while they wait. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.